Chair Mr. Shabbir Ahmed Chaudhry, Secretary, Bilateral West, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Honorable Chief Guest, Dr. Mashiur Rahman, Economic Affairs Advisor to the Prime Minister, Special Guest, His Excellency Mr. Tenzin Lakpel, Secretary General, the Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multisectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation, Special Guest, Dr. Johan Swinen, Director General, IFPRI, Special Guest, Dr. Purvi Mehta, Head of Agriculture for Asia, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Director of IFPRI-South Asia, Dr. Shahidur Rashid, Dr. Shami Mustafa, Senior Research Coordinator, IFPRI Bangladesh. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon to you all. On behalf of the International Food Policy Research Institute and Dr. Akhtar Ahmed, country representative of IFPRI Bangladesh, I'm very pleased to welcome you all to the signing ceremony of the Memorandum of Understanding between IFPRI and the BIMSTEC Secretariat. Over the past 3 decades, IFPRI has maintained a strong presence in Bangladesh, conducting food policy research and social protection research, providing policy support, and strengthening stakeholders' capacity. This on-the-ground presence has allowed IFPRI to generate evidence-based research results on critical food and nutrition security issues, and to contribute to significant policy reforms in the food and agriculture sectors of Bangladesh. The Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multisectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation is a regional organization that was established in the late 90s and has its members Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Myanmar, Nepal, Sri Lanka, and Thailand. The BIMSTEC region is home to around 1.8 billion people, representing over 1/5 of the world's population, with a combined GDP of US $3.6 trillion. With this Memorandum of Understanding, IFPRI is collaborating with the BIMSTEC Secretariat to contribute towards a sustainable and inclusive food, agricultural, and trade transformation in the region. For this, IFPRI will be facilitating collaborative research with local partners, implement capacity building programs, and promote outreach and policy communications through cross-country learning and increased exchange of ideas. The experiences of the member states within BIMSTEC can offer valuable lessons for each other, such as the high level of farm mechanization in Bangladesh and India's experience in innovations in delivery systems and extensions. The underlying idea behind the partnership is to set up a regional network of policy analysts, development practitioners, private sector representatives, and other stakeholders in the food and agriculture policy space, and help disseminate and make available evidence-based policy insights and best practices of the region. I believe that the collaboration between IFPRI and the BIMSTEC Secretariat will be fruitful. IFPRI Bangladesh will look forward to ways to support this important initiative. At this time, on behalf of IFPRI, I would like to thank everyone here for coming. Now it is my pleasure to request Dr. Shahidur Rashid, Director of IFPRI-South Asia, to give his presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Bakhtiar, for your warm welcome. I now invite Dr. Shahidur Rashid, Director of South Asia at International Food Policy Research Institute, to present his thoughts regarding the scope of collaboration between IFPRI and BIMSTEC Secretariat.
A very good afternoon to you all. With your permission, Mr. Chair, I would like to begin by acknowledging Mr. M. Saiduzzaman, former finance minister, also who successfully served on IFPRI board for about 7 years. Thank you, sir, for joining us today. It's a real pleasure. And all of you, I'd like to give a round of applause for sir's courage to attend this event. Thank you, sir. Mr. Chair, Shabbir Ahmed Chaudhry, Acting Foreign Secretary right now, Minister of Foreign Affairs. Dr. Mashur Rahman, Economic Advisor, Honorable Economic Advisor to the Prime Minister, a special guest, His Excellency Tenzin Lekpal, and a special guest and my boss, Dr. Johan Suinen. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a real pleasure to be standing in front of you today. When you think about MOU between a regional economic cooperation and a think tank or an international organization like IFPRI, it should be simple, because the idea of the regional economic cooperation and the partnership with the thought partners, international think tank, is kind of a right match. But this MOU that we will be signing today has been in the making for almost 3 years. So I would like to thank Mr. Excellency Secretary General, Mr. Tenzin Lekpal, for his perseverance in getting it done. Thank you so much, Your Excellency. So what I'll try to do, make just a few points. Number one is why BIMSTEC, why regional economic cooperation, why IFPRI in this partnership, and what can we do in the future? So what is the vision for IFPRI to engage with BIMSTEC in the future? So that will be my presentation. I'll try to finish it in 7 to 8 minutes. So why BIMSTEC? That part is fairly established in the literature. When you form this regional economic cooperation, you can improve market efficiency, you can share the cost of public goods like infrastructure. When a country cannot do it, a regional economic cooperation can address some of those challenges, such as connectivity challenges. And then you can decide on policy cooperation, where the regional economic body can serve as a platform or serve as anchor for those cooperation and reap other non-economic benefits such as peace and security. These are really obvious rationale for forming regional economic cooperation. Now, coming to it, if you look at around, there are many economic cooperation which did not succeed. Why? Because there was a lot of things missing. And in our region, for the 7 countries that we are talking about, we also have a lot of challenges ahead. We have this poor integration. If you look back 50 years ago, Bay of Bengal countries were more integrated than they are today. That is a challenge. Climate vulnerability. If you look at them, Atik Bhai is here, vulnerability, climate shock for our region, Bay of Bengal region, is very, very high. And that's going to be the challenge of the next generation. In the 60s, policymakers were worried about feeding people with rice. Now that will be a bigger challenge ahead if climate challenges are not tackled. Free trade agreement negotiation started in 2004, but not yet finalized. And most importantly, the way agricultural market and trade is evolving, being part of the regional and global value chain is extremely important to reap the benefit of it. That is very weak in the region. I know the countries within BIMSTEC do less trade among themselves than they do with East Asian countries, Southeast Asian countries. Why does that happen? We have that challenge of the policy coherence. I'd like to give a quick example, very recent. In 2022, February, when Russia-Ukraine war broke out, Government of India, from a diplomatic standpoint, said, we have enough stock to feed the world. That was the message in February 2022. Then comes March. March was the hottest month in 100 years. What happened? Crop forecast revised, and government put a ban on wheat export, which created a shockwave to the global market. But the question is, this decision had implication for the global market, but not much for India. And they realized that subsequently. If you have effective mechanism, effective platform, then these kind of ad hoc challenges will not be faced by the region or by the world. So if you look at BIMSTEC history now, from the first summit to charter, which was not too long ago, the trade, regional integration, human resource development, agriculture, fisheries, science and technology, people-to-people contact, regional security have been discussed time and again. But in terms of effectiveness, we have not reached there yet. So the question is why, and then what can IFPRI do? So there comes the vision for this MOU. So IFPRI is not doing the MOU, the regional economic cooperation, for the first time. IFPRI provided technical input to African Union when they are formulating new economic partnership for African development. Also, another initiative called CADAP, Comprehensive African Agricultural Development. We have also worked with regional cooperation in Africa. And we have ongoing activities with ASEAN. We have ongoing activities with SAARC. So in this vision then, what can we do? So we want to do three things. We want to provide analytical content on the areas in which IFPRI has the core competence to deliver quality, evidence-based, objective research. Number two, we'll work on building capacity so that the content can be synthesized and taken to the large forum. For example, BIMSTEC can organize ministerial level meeting, both agriculture ministerial meeting, commerce ministerial meeting, foreign secretarial meeting. But to go there with a serious policy suggestion, recommendation, or investment planning, it requires a lot of technical analysis. So IFPRI as a partner, as long as needed, will provide that kind of technical analysis. So those are the four visions that we have ahead. So how do we do that? How do we visualize, how do we materialize this vision? So mainly three steps. We identify areas of engagement in consultation with BIMSTEC as well as other national partners. And then we work on it together through a network of think tanks in the Bay of Bengal countries. And then we do dissemination and outreach together. Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, I have to acknowledge colleague visiting from Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation here as well, has been supporting IFPRI to basically identify key areas of engagement with BIMSTEC. And some of the work that my colleagues have started doing, I just want to share a glimpses of that here today. So this is one example. This is a dashboard IFPRI is working on, which will be called Agricultural Trade Monitor Plus. Why Trade Monitor? It will provide almost high-frequency data to understand the policy context in the region, bottlenecks in the policy formulation and implementation, and provide the trade pattern data on an annual basis. And this dashboard will go live. So you click on any particular topic, you'll get the data behind, as well as analysis, whatever you want to use it for. And the other outreach product will be disseminated jointly in partnership with BIMSTEC. With those words, I would like to thank you all for joining us. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of the evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rashid, for explaining the significance and vision of this initiative. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to direct your attention to the large screen behind you for a better viewing experience of the presentation slides and the speaker. I would now like to invite His Excellency, Mr. Tenzin Lekfel, Secretary General, Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multisectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation, to give his remarks.
His Excellency, Dr. Mashoor Rahman, Economic Affairs Advisor to the Honorable Prime Minister of Bangladesh, His Excellency Mr. Shabir Chowdhury, Secretary, Bilateral West, Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Bangladesh, Dr. Johan Swinen, Director General of International Food Policy and Research Institute, Dr. Shahidur Rashid, Director for South Asia of IFPRI, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, let me thank Dr. Shahidur for his excellent presentation, which gave an overview, the background of why we are here today, the purpose of signing the Memorandum of Understanding between BIMSTEC and IFPRI. I think his presentation covered the whole purpose and the background of the two institutions coming together. So with this, good afternoon, and today is a special occasion for BIMSTEC and a special day for BIMSTEC. I'm personally very happy that BIMSTEC is finally signing the Memorandum of Understanding with International Food Policy and Research Institute and cementing our formal relationship. The process to get to this day has not been simple. It was a long wait, as my colleague Dr. Rashid said. It required a lot of follow-ups, negotiations, and consensus from our 7 member states. However, we are grateful that the MOU is now ready to be signed, and we would like to thank all our member states for their support and cooperation. With this, ladies and gentlemen, may I also extend a very warm welcome to all the dignitaries and distinguished guests who are here today to witness this signing ceremony of MOU between BIMSTEC and IFPRI. I would like to particularly thank His Excellency Dr. Mashur and His Excellency Mr. Shabir for giving away their important matters and be with us at this ceremony. And Dr. Johan, I'm learning your pronunciation now. There's J-O, so Johan, Dr. Johan, who has taken the trouble to travel all the way from Washington to Dhaka to sign the MOU with BIMSTEC. And thank you, distinguished guests. We deeply value your presence here today. Excellencies, distinguished guests, kindly allow me to share with you all a brief background of BIMSTEC on this historic MOU signing ceremony. BIMSTEC, as we all know, comprises of 7 member states from South and Southeast Asia and is a home to about 1.8 billion people. Despite significant progresses made by our 7 member states in recent years, many people in the region still lack access to safe, nutritious, and affordable food, while the region is also facing severe challenges such as climate change, natural disasters, and economic instability. Agriculture and food security sector, therefore, is very important and is a core area of BIMSTEC cooperation. The BIMSTEC agriculture ministers recently met on 10th of November 2022 to discuss on regional agriculture policies and integration and the strategies. And we are happy that the meeting adopted a BIMSTEC plan of action on strengthening BIMSTEC agriculture cooperation, which aims to reduce rural poverty, ensure food security, food safety, and better nutrition. We all know that IFPRI is a global institution working with more than 70 countries, providing research and policy options on agriculture, food, and nutrition. And given the commonalities that IFPRI and BIMSTEC have to reduce poverty and ensure food safety and security, I see no reason why these two institutions should not come together to uplift the lives of the peoples in our region. Beginning today, we mark an important step. We strengthen our partnership to work towards a common goal. We will have a formal framework to collaborate and partner on a wide range of activities. Specifically, the MOU will facilitate the two institutions to collaborate and focus on policy issues, analysis, research, capacity building, dissemination of knowledge and best practices, agricultural trade, food safety, and climate change. These are areas that are critical for BIMSTEC to achieve its sustainable development. Before I conclude, ladies and gentlemen, I and my colleagues at the Secretariat must acknowledge and extend our sincere gratitude and appreciation to Dr. Shahidur Rashid, who has been the key, the main link, and the main driving force of our association, partnership, and the BIMSTEC IFPRI Memorandum of Understanding. Dr. Rashid, thank you once again for your hard work and for bringing the two institutions together. Let me also thank our friends from IFPRI Bangladesh for your support, cooperation, and excellent arrangements that have been made today for this event. Finally, let us all hope and look forward for a successful execution of the MOU signed today between IFPRI and BIMSTEC, and may it benefit the peoples of our regions in years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Leckfeld, for reaffirming BIMSTEC's commitment towards promoting regional cooperation for a more promising future for the region. I would like to invite Dr. Johan Swinen, Director General, International Food Policy Research Institute and Managing Director of Systems Transformation, CGIAR, to give his remarks regarding IFPRI and its engagement in the South Asia region.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, dear excellencies, dear distinguished guests, dear colleagues. It's a great pleasure and a great honor for me to stand here. I was on my way to Dhaka exactly 3 years ago, and it was my first visit to a country office of IFPRI after being appointed as new Director General. And then a pandemic hit, and I got stuck halfway between Washington, D.C. and Dhaka, and it took me 3 years to ultimately get here. But I'm really happy to be here at the occasion of this signature of the MOU with BIMSTEC, because I think it's a really important occasion to be here. It's an important step in the relationship between IFPRI and the South Asia region, and IFPRI and Bangladesh. IFPRI and Bangladesh, and particularly the Ministry of Food, have a very long and rich history of partnership spanning several decades. Through this collaboration, IFPRI, as has already been emphasized by previous speakers, has provided instrumental research inputs to the government of Bangladesh and the region for building institutional capacity, undertaking policy reforms, and helping design and implement innovative programs. As I said already, the relationship is long and intense. It is intense because IFPRI has roughly 600 staff now, but only half of those are in Washington headquarters, and the other half are in country programs mostly in Asia and Africa. And Bangladesh is a special office for us because of the long history, and also because it's one of our largest offices. And I think if we look at the Central Asia region as a whole, it is one of the largest groups in IFPRI. It's a long history, a long partnership, because as soon as IFPRI started almost 50 years ago, we engaged in the region and in Bangladesh in specific. This expanded quickly under the leadership of John Meller, the second DG of IFPRI. And I should mention that the first vice chair of the Bangladesh Planning Commission was on IFPRI's first board, along with the former finance minister of Bangladesh, Mr. Sayyiduzzaman, who is with us here today. Our first official collaboration was in the late 1980s and under the Bangladesh Food Policy Project. Researchers from the two institutions, along with the Bangladesh Institute of Development Studies, worked together to evaluate food-assisted target programs, to develop research tools, and to conduct courses and trainings. The findings from this project were very important and led to significant policy reforms. the public food grain distribution system moved from a broader rationing system towards targeted programs. It also created the Food for Education program. More broadly in the region, IFPRI's partnership with India began in the wake of the Green Revolution. For example, in the 1980s, IFPRI delved into India's agricultural sectors on topics such as the food grain production, subsidy systems, dairy development, and livestock demand. In the 1990s, IFPRI's work focused more on topics such as public expenditures and poverty in rural areas in India. And in the decades since, collaboration in South Asia has only deepened. For example, as you all undoubtedly know, there was a major flood in 1998 in Bangladesh, and following up on that, our food management and research support project, jointly again with the government, played an instrumental role in identifying, providing empirical analysis and on the problems and the solutions to this, okay? And so we, IFPRI staff, consulted with the government, with NGOs and other actors in the food system, and helped formulate a policy that allowed about 2 million metric tons of rice imports to stabilize food markets in the country. In 2002, IFPRI launched the South Asia initiatives, and in 2005, it established a South Asia regional office in New Delhi, which is central to what we are experiencing here today, or contributed very strongly to that. In 2010, we launched the Bangladesh Policy Research and Strategy Support Program, again together with the government of Bangladesh, and this has generated a wide range of evidence, of data, and of advice. Much of it is demand-driven to support Bangladesh country investment plan for agriculture, food security, and nutrition. I can go on with a number of examples, but I don't have time to go into all the details here. But I should emphasize that there was a number, particularly in recent years, we have engaged in a number of rigorous evaluation of a variety of programs in South Asia, such as, for example, the Alive and Thrive program in Bangladesh, where we analyzed the effectiveness of programs directed at mothers, young mothers, and at infants in terms of using breast milk, diet diversity, etc. Other programs are around climate-smart investment strategies or scaling up climate-smart agriculture in South Asia, as well as the agricultural transformation and market integration in Asian countries. And lately, we have also designed and conducted large-scale household surveys, such as the Bangladesh Integrated Household Survey, which, as you know, probably has played an important role in identifying target groups for a variety of programs that have been implemented. I think the combination of capacities, infrastructure, and partnership has proven very successful in analyzing a series of these programs, but also dealing with recent crises. We had two major crises recently. One was the COVID-19, where we could use the infrastructure that we had, the capacities, the partnership that existed, to analyze the impact of the pandemic and identify the appropriate policy responses. The recent global volatility on food and fertilizer markets following the invasion of Ukraine by Russia, which has disrupted global trade and global markets. This also had brought very important challenges in the region, including trade in wheat, vegetable oils, and of course fertilizers. And there also, I think our analysis or our partnership has allowed to come up with impact assessments and policy advice. Partnerships are clearly a core pillar for us. They work in several ways. Partnerships are there both regional, with regional organizations, such as now with BIMSTEC, but also with countries. They are there because it's crucial for us to come up with locally verified empirical evidence. Without partnership, this is not possible. I think it's also important that we need a more systematic approach to partnerships, an integrated approach like BIMSTEM, to emphasize and to analyze the interconnectedness of economic, social, environmental, and of course geographic linkages across the region. And apart from these linkages, it's important for countries to learn from each other, to learn from each other's experiences, both from the successes and from the failures, and to build on that for the future. And we also hope that this regional body can play a greater role in promoting peace and sustainable development and strengthening cooperation throughout South and Southeast Asia. We hope that also there's a different effect that IFPRI, with its global experience, its global set of analyses, can also contribute to the region by bringing these in through the partnership and drawing on our engagement in emerging global food and agriculture policies and analysis around the world. So in closing, let me end by some words of appreciation and reflections. I very much want to thank our partners here, our Bangladesh partners, and for hosting us, for hosting this event. Very much want to thank the BIMSTEC Secretariat, and particularly Secretary General Tenzin Lekman, who is here. Special appreciation for Mr. Shabir Ahmed Chowdhury for chairing this event and for the presence of our chief guest, Mashur Rahman, with us here today. I also very much want to thank everybody, you who are here, for joining us in this event, and other partners and regional stakeholders for continued engagement, and also very much my colleagues from IFPRI, the IFPRI staff in Bangladesh here, and in the South Asia office. So in closing, we are living in what I've called CCC times, CCC referring to climate change conflict and COVID-19, which is a combination of factors which have reinforced each other in creating major challenges across the globe for sustainable development and for food and nutrition security. To address these, we need all our capacities, all our skills, and all our engagements, and for these to cooperate and to reinforce each other. I very much believe that this MOU with BIMSTEC and the cooperation it symbolizes makes this possible and is an important step. And I very much hope that our partnership will continue and strengthen in the coming years to contribute to that. We have many critical development puzzles ahead of us, many challenges to deal with, and I'm confident that, and I hope that our research can get us there, can contribute to this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Swinen, for endorsing IFPRI's commitment towards this partnership and working with the BIMSTEC Secretariat on capacity sharing initiatives. Due to unfortunate circumstances, Dr. Purvi Mehta, Head Agriculture for Asia and Lead Global Climate Adaptation of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, will not be able to join us in person. However, we have a video message from her.
Colleagues, first of all, my apologies for not being able to make it to Bangladesh. I had to cancel the trip at a very last moment because of unavoidable situation, but really sorry to miss the opportunity to seeing all of you in person, but wanted to really send my greetings, as this is a very, very important event for us as the Gates Foundation and as a witness of this very important event, but at the same time a very important event for the region and also for the agriculture sector. So congratulations, and again, really very sorry to miss being part of this, shall I say, historical moment. My greetings to Dr. Bakhtiar, Dr. Shahid, the Secretary General of BIMSTEC, His Excellency Mr. Tenzin, of course, Dr. Yuan, the Director General of IFPRI, Dr. Rahman, Dr. Chaudhry, colleagues from BIMSTEC, colleagues from IFPRI, and my own colleague Mariana Kim, who has been leading our IFPRI-BIMSTEC relationship from our side. Greetings to all of you, and I just wanted to congratulate especially IFPRI and BIMSTEC for this event. I think this is a very important MOU from the perspective of the region, and also from the fact that this is going to be incorporating a very large number of policy discussions and alignment of various policy efforts within the region and across the region. For us, both BIMSTEC, because of its very unique regional positioning, which is country agnostic and very strong in the region, in taking some of these alliances forward. BIMSTEC is a very important organization, but at the same time, IFPRI and the CGIAR as, of course, a very, very important global player in the field of agriculture and the policy environment globally, and bringing the global global messages and global lessons and evidences from all over the world. But at the same time, it's very, very rootedness and into this region and its contribution in the region. So we're really very, very glad to witness this MOU, and I wish I could be there, but we are really looking forward to seeing how this MOU will turn into some very interesting regional cooperations in terms of agriculture trade, in terms of agriculture technologies and the lessons in policies, which are going to be very, very important especially for the farmers of this region who are the smallholder farming population, and very, very excited and want to pay my best regards and my best wishes for this MOU. And once again, congratulations to the leadership of IFPRI and the leadership of BIMSTEC for organizing this, and also for the representation and leaders from Bangladesh who are hosting this event. Wish I could be there, but wishing the event all the very best. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Purvi Mehta, for your valuable views and support. I would now like to invite our chief guest, Dr. Moshiur Rahman, Economic Affairs Advisor to the Honorable Prime Minister, to give his remarks.
Dr. Bakhtiar, who is the chief of the party of some program, Chair and Secretary of Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Dr. Rashid, Secretary General of BIMSTEC, DG IFPRI, and virtual MS Mehta, who could not be with us. I must convey my regards to Mr. Saiduzzaman. I think I had worked with him for a longer period than he had been on the board of IFPRI. So he was my secretary and a minister for about a decade, if not slightly longer than that. I think it's very encouraging that BIMSTEC is initiating a program, agriculture, trade, etc., in Bangladesh. When you talk of agriculture, we generally focus on the productivity, the prices, the farmer's plight, how that can be improved, and so on. But somehow or other, trade does not get the attention that I think it should, and what I guess the IFPRI is trying to do. The Director General of BIMSTEC talked about how BIMSTEC works and what it could do. Back in 1997, when Sheikh Hasina had become the Prime Minister, she went to Delhi, and one of the things that our Foreign Affairs Ministry insisted on was to have the BIMSTEC headquarters in Dhaka. Perhaps that was a kind of compensation for International Jute Organization headquarters, which we had lost. In the process, IGO has been transformed into a jute study group. Now, I guess the Sheikh Hasina's approach to regional cooperation was something more focused and more feasible, but also narrow. She thought of cooperation between India, Bangladesh, and eventually Nepal and Bhutan to be brought into that framework. And it would work on water, transport, transit, power, education, culture, and a few other things that the people would be interested in. It was a subset and a feasible one, and that could produce benefit for all of these countries. It has not got the traction that was expected, and I guess it should be nurtured because this is a feasible and this can produce results very quickly. The strategy was also something very flexible. The idea was that Bangladesh and India take the initiative, and Nepal and Bhutan can join either on specific projects like hydropower, transport and transit, and could also join the framework of the agreement. So there was something flexible there. Now coming to IFPRI and Bangladesh, IFPRI and BIMSTEC and their program on Bangladesh. Let me say that Bangladesh has a fairly strong establishment for agriculture research. And I think at some point of time, I guess IFPRI Dhaka office is already doing that, but in some point of time, they might be brought into the framework of research that will be beneficial to Bangladesh and also to IFPRI. Agriculture presents an issue in Bangladesh. Trade, and particularly if trade means international trade, which it does, involves small-scale producers and small farmers with international trade. So they are exposed to all the risks and the benefits which flow from international trade, but at the same time, they do not have the capacity or the required support for risk management of risk that is generated in that process of trade. Investment, the quality and the quantity of investment is another problem that I guess Bangladesh should be looked at in the context of Bangladesh. Agriculture productivity depends critically on the modern inputs like fertilizer, good seeds. Irrigation is important, but somehow or other irrigation has not expanded as fast for various natural constraints. But that is one area that can improve our productivity and our output. For the last couple of years, agriculture wage was reported to be higher than industrial and urban wage. That's a critical area that I guess we should look at. If agriculture wage is higher, then in course of time that would put pressure on industrial and urban wage also. But that seems something strange. Normally agriculture wage is slightly lower than urban and industrial wage. Now, I had a friend who was doing research on Green Revolution. That was back in the late 70s. He was doing research on the impact in India. One of the strange findings that he came up with is that the areas where the Green Revolution has produced the desired benefit, there was a tendency for the farmers to transfer resources and themselves from the rural areas to the nearest urban areas. So that would indicate a pattern of urbanization, mid-level or small-scale urbanization, and a shift from purely rural to semi-rural or semi-urban area. That's an area which we have not addressed adequately, but I guess that requires some attention. And I guess finally I would point to the fact that agriculture trade involves, as I said in the beginning, small farmers, urban consumers, urban demand, and if it is linked with international trade, then the area of the risks and the intensity of the risks increases. unless those risks are mitigated and addressed adequately, it becomes difficult to use trade as a tool of agricultural transformation, agricultural growth. I guess the research program of this research program that follows from this memorandum of understanding would address those issues, and I believe that this should continue to be well funded and will undertake well targeted programs in terms of territory and in terms of issue. Let me conclude with thanks to IFPRI and BIMSTEC for taking initiative for this multilateral global cooperation, and I thank the DG and the Secretary General for their active interest in the subject, and thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Rahman, for sharing your valuable insights with us. I would now like to invite the chair for this session, Mr. Shabbir Ahmed Chowdhury, Secretary, Bilateral West, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, to give his remarks.
Dr. Moshir Rahman, Honorable Economic Advisor to the Honorable Prime Minister, His Excellency Mr. Tenzing Legfeld, Secretary General of BIMSTEC, Dr. Johan Swinen, Director General of IFPRI, Dr. Purvi Mehta, Head of the Agriculture for Asia and lead Global Climate Adaptation, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, who has joined us virtually, Dr. Shohidur Rashid, Director for South Asia of IFPRI, distinguished colleagues from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, distinguished representatives from IFPRI and BIMSTEC, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum, and a very good evening. We are now in the month of March. This month has special significance in the history of Bangladesh. On the 7th of March 1971, the greatest Bengali of all times, father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, delivered his historic speech, which eventually led the people of Bangladesh to the liberation struggle. Father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, was born on the 17th of March 1920. On the 26th of March 1971, Bangladesh declared itself as an independent country in the world. So I'd like to first express my profound homage to the greatest Bengali of all times, father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, and all the martyrs who sacrificed their lives for the independence of Bangladesh. May Almighty Allah grant them Jannatul Firdaus, that is the highest honor in the eternal life hereafter. Ladies and gentlemen, I feel immensely delighted and honored to be part of today's congregation. I'd like to thank IFPRI and all concerned to organize this auspicious event. Ladies and gentlemen, I am very pleased to be here today for this MOU signing ceremony between IFPRI and BIMSTEC, signifying their new partnership towards achieving a sustainable transformation in the Bay of Bengal region. I'd like to extend my warmest appreciation to IFPRI and BIMSTEC for inviting me to chair this important event. As a country, Bangladesh has come a long way in achieving remarkable economic growth of an average of 6% during the last decade. As a matter of fact, even during adversities, under the able guidance of the Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, Bangladesh managed to stay steady on our path of development. After independence, Bangladesh had a nil foreign currency reserve and a per capita GDP of only $100. Today, Bangladesh is looking forward to officially graduate from the LDC status by 2026 and a developed country by 2041. As it has already been mentioned, much of our successful growth and in fact the way we have dealt with economic shocks are gains achieved from liberal trade policies. Trade and expansion of our export diversity have been a cornerstone of our strategy of economic diplomacy. In the financial year 2021-22, Bangladesh created a landmark by crossing the 50 billion mark in export earnings, with the highest share coming from our ready-made garment sector. And as the lead country under BIMSTEC for trade, investment, and development sector, this is certainly a great accomplishment for Bangladesh. Respected audience, as a founding member of this regional organization, we have a strong commitment towards facilitating stronger regional integration and cooperation, and we continue to contribute towards the BIMSTEC mechanism and purposes with increasing engagements. Our Honorable Prime Minister has said our vision of economic diplomacy must be one where we achieve development and peace through mutual collaboration while considering how we can expand trade and business to ensure economic self-reliance. For this concept of the diplomatic strategy, we have opened up new markets and have conducted feasibility studies on 23 countries for bilateral and regional trade agreements, free trade agreements, and comprehensive economic agreements. The Ministry of Commerce of Bangladesh has been working with various Bangladesh missions abroad to finalize preferential and free trade deals with a number of countries. Ladies and gentlemen, we also need to pour in more research and investment to ensure that our policies are designed to support the expansion of trade and commerce, promote product diversification, and understand and maintain the product demand and its quality, ensuring our position in the global market. In order to facilitate the implementation of this economic diplomacy, BIMSTEC as a platform is crucial, where all policy-related issues that are important to our government can be discussed and supported by our interactions with policymakers of other member states. As has already been emphasized today, our experiences can be useful for other member states, just as their experiences in various sectors can be valuable to us. Through BIMSTEC, we have the advantage of accessing both South Asia and Southeast Asia. To ensure economic and social prosperity for the population of this region, we have to undertake more realistic and result-driven, mutually beneficial partnerships. In order to materialize our aim to become a developed nation and to fulfill the dream of Father of the Nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, we have a long way to go, and we are working tirelessly to make it happen. I hope that the beginning of this new partnership between IFPRI and BIMSTEC will help support all the BIMSTEC members in harnessing their potential. In conclusion, I'd like to end by congratulating both BIMSTEC and IFPRI on the signing ceremony. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Chaudhary, for your illuminating speech. We will now open the floor for questions from the participants. Can we have a mic for any participant who would like to ask a question? The guests can ask any questions if they want from the panelists. Thank you.
Hi, Assalamu alaikum. I'm Saika Shiraj. I'm the Country Director for Nutrition International in Bangladesh. My question would be that we see how widespread the scopes are through this MOU. We understand that there will be a lot of cross-country learning, but also, is there a plan to find out the priorities within each country? And if so, how this MOU is going to support that?
Good afternoon. I am Dr. Rudaba Khandaga, the Country Director for Global Alliance for Improved Nutrition. Thank you, fantastic presentation, congratulations. So my question is how this, the MOU, also the subsequent, the collaboration are aligned with the regional different initiative linking with the transformation of the food system pathways of the different countries. I know though India doesn't have a food system pathway, on the UN food system pathway, nutrition for growth, others, and also linking with the Delta 2100. So I think these policies, the 8th 5-year plan, 9th 5-year plan, and perspective plans for Bangladesh, how these will have an impact and contribution and attribution. Thank you.
Dr. Rashid? Maybe I'll take the first one. I think that is more relevant to me. Maybe the second one, I'll leave it to my friend, Dr. Rashid. Yes, I think this, as I said earlier, this is the first step that we are taking an association between BIMSTEC and IFPRI. And we have identified a wide range of areas where we would be working together. And for now, we also have, as I said earlier, a plan of action developed where all the 7 member states have come together, a group of experts on agriculture. They have come together, so developed a plan of action. And each country have, identified their need within that BIMSTEC framework. So somehow, while we do not have a separate plan of action identified, but it's a general regional agriculture cooperation where each member states have projected their interest and identified their needs. Thank you.
I'd like to say a few words on the second question. That is, how can this MOU contribute in terms of the food system, which are different, of course, for the different countries. The 7 countries, they have their respective food policies, and these may, of course, vary from one to the other. But BIMSTEC, actually, it is a forum where actually we gather together to find out some common aspects which can come to the benefit of the others. And IFPRI, it goes beyond saying that it is an expert, forum, which have conducted researches, through years to excel in agriculture and food. So I believe that when these two come together, they can come to the benefit of all the 7 countries. And I'm sure that it will not be confined only among these 7 countries, but it can go beyond, which means that this experience can be shared by all the countries where food crisis prevails, especially in the African countries. And in these days, especially when the whole world is suffering due to the turmoil in Europe, we understand the need of food, what food crisis means for a country. So I believe that this MOU will help us enormously. Thank you very much.
Excellency wanted me to say a few words related to Saika's question. How are we going to prioritize areas of collaboration? You pointed out the 8th 5-year, 7th 5-year plan, 6th 5-year plan. Each of these countries have their plans, right? And IFPRI is not qualified to work on all of those. IFPRI has its core competencies. IFPRI is good at, for example, IFPRI has the highest collection of analytical models to look at big issues like WTO policies and implication to country level, local level investment analysis. So we look at our core competencies and try to match with the demand of the member states from the BIMSTEC and try to engage in those areas. Other thing that we want to do is the capacity building part. Within the BIMSTEC, can we create an analytical unit that can feed policy insights, crystallize them, and feed the leadership when they have a meeting, say a ministerial level meeting, so that there is clear communication about the policy rationales, investment rationales, why the countries should come together. I think those are the kind of input that IFPRI wants to generate in the future for the good of the Bay of Bengal countries, so that it can reclaim the glory once it had. 50 years ago, it was more integrated than they are now. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. That was very, very clear, concise remark on those questions. Let me also take this minute to acknowledge my colleague, Dr. Tunis Van Renen. If you could stand up, he's the Director for Partnership, and he is the one who was behind IFPRI partnership with several regional economic organizations in Africa. He has also some of the global engagements like WTO and other issues. He has been very effective member of IFPRI, representing IFPRI in all those conversations. Thank you for joining us for the MOU signing ceremony. I would also like to acknowledge Ms. Mariana Kim from the Gates Foundation, who has been supporting our engagement. So thank you very much for flying out here from Seattle. And thank you all. I don't think I have any more questions to answer. You? Can you say something? No, you're fine. Sir? I'll give you the speaker. To you. I don't know. You would say something about how we can work together.
Well, I thank you for getting me into this game, and I would be happier if you didn't. Let me put it in very brief schematically. All these countries, each of these countries has its own program and its priorities. IFPRI and Bill Gates and Melinda Foundation, they also have their priorities, which determine what kind of program and what kind of institutions the foundation would support. So there would be areas where the three sets of priorities and interests would gel, and that is where the IFPRI and BIMSTEC's cooperation can make useful contribution. My hunch is that when they pick up specific program for research, they would interact with the countries concerned and identify where the interests match, and they would engage in those areas of cooperation and research. That's my understanding at this point of time.
I'm happy that I engaged you in this game.
Well, I changed my opinion then.
Thank you.
Thank you, wonderful speakers. I will now request Dr. Shomi Mustafa, Senior Research Coordinator at International Food Policy Research Institute, to give the vote of thanks.
Good evening, everyone. My job is to give thanks. It's the briefest one, but it's heartfelt. Thank you, the audience, guests. We really appreciate your coming here. Thank you, our honorable panel here, Her Excellency, Secretary General, and Chief Guest, Honorable Chair, our DG, Dr. Suenan, And this is his first visit. I told him that we thank him for that, but we hope sincerely that this is the first of many to come. And then Dr. Shahidul Rashid, who has been instrumental in bringing about this program, and Dr. Tunis Van Renan. Thank you. That's about it. Good evening, and please wait for the announcement from Nabila. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mustafa, for closing this session. We will now take a short break for 15 minutes and before resuming the session. The MOU signing ceremony will begin at 6:15 p.m. We hope you'll be a part of this ceremony. Thank you. I would now like to request the guests to return to the banquet hall. I'd like to request the guests to take their seats. We'll be starting the MOU signing ceremony shortly. Thank you. Welcome back, everyone. We will now move on to the main event, signing of the Memorandum of Understanding between IFPRI and the BIMSTEC Secretariat. For this session, I'd like to request His Excellency Mr. Tenzin Lekfel, Secretary General, and Mr. Tun Lin Ong, Director, Agriculture and Food Security Division, to step onto the dais. I'll also request Dr. Johan Swinen, Director General, and Dr. Shahidul Rashid, Director of South Asia, and Dr. Tunis Van Reenen, Director, Business Development and External Relations, to step onto the dais. We'll be beginning the MOU signing ceremony now. So I'd like to request the IFPRI staff members to felicitate the guests with the MOU signing document, please. I'd now like to request the signees to hold over the documents for a photo op session. I would also like to request the BIMSTEC senior management and the IFPRI senior management for group photo with the signees. I'd like to request the chief guest and the chair for the session to step onto the dais, please. Thank you everyone for joining us today. May I now request everyone to please join us for dinner. Good night everyone, and I hope you enjoyed your evening. Thank you.